I told my father I would cut ties with him if he didn't come to my wedding. Then he throw away because my younger sister knows my main account. My 26F father, 59M, is a slightly known musician in my home country. Due to his career, he missed out on most of my milestones while I was growing up. School plays, a few birthdays, and both my high school and college graduations, to name a few. Mostly events he was informed of months in advance, and cancelled on me either weeks or days before. He always apologized for doing so, but never really seemed to feel guilty. I remember we almost had a fight because I didn't want to watch a video he had missed my high school graduation to film. It hurt me so much as a child that I stopped expecting him to show up. It still bothered me when I got older, but at that point I understood that it was his job and I should be grateful he even had one. I'm getting married in early September. My fiancé, 28M, and I have been planning this wedding for a year and a half. The date was decided and invitations were sent months ago. Almost every guest has already RSVP'd. I've reminded my father of the date several times this past year, and he kept assuring me he had blocked the entire week of the wedding and would be there. A couple days ago, my father called to inform me he'd had to schedule a concert for my wedding day. He apologized and said he'd make it up to me with a gift. I don't want a gift. I want my father to come to my wedding. So I told him that either he figured out a way to reschedule, which I know he could probably do if he tried, or I'd cut ties with him. What followed was one of the biggest fights we've ever had. He called me ungrateful, spoiled and selfish for giving him that kind of ultimatum and expecting him to change his work schedule for my own benefit, which he has asked me to do on many occasions before. He yelled, and I held myself not to yell back. We're still fighting over this. Most of my family is on my side, though both my mom, divorced from my dad, and my fiancé have warned me not to make any moves I might regret. My sister, 20F, is on my father's side, which doesn't surprise me. I love my father and I really don't want to stop talking to him, but I'm done with him expecting to be able to miss out on my life with no consequences. That being said, I'd be lying if I said that I don't feel guilty. Just writing this all down made me feel like a huge brat. Edit, thought I'd clarify some things. My mom and my fiancé are 100% on my side. They told me to be careful because they know I don't really want to go NC. Also, my mom has barely spoken to my father in almost 20 years and my fiancé is with me because we love each other, not because of who my father is. My father is not a struggling artist. He's been in this line of work since before I was born. I wouldn't consider him rich, but he lives more than just comfortably. If I thought he couldn't afford to reschedule a concert, I wouldn't blame him for not being able to come to the wedding. And yes, he paid child support and provided for both me and my sister. I do have other people who can walk me down the aisle. My stepdad, which would make my dad furious, so I might do it purely out of pettiness, and at least 2 of my best friends would be more than willing to. My father isn't paying for any part of the wedding. He offered to, but I declined. I don't live with him anymore, and both me and my fiancé have good jobs. When I was younger, I told myself that once I didn't need his money anymore, I'd never ask for it again. My sister isn't the golden child. He missed many of her milestones as well. Edit 2, I've tried acting indifferent before. It doesn't work. He interprets it as forgiveness. It's the reason why he still does this. Edit 3, my sister keeps taking his side for 3 reasons. She still lives with him. She has been belittling me since she was in elementary school. This is probably my fault, but I've been sheltering her from these things her entire life. The only reason why our father went to her high school graduation was because I berated him. As a teen, I took over her fights with him and played mediator whenever I had to. Basically, she never had many problems with him because of me. She doesn't know half of what I've done for her, and I don't really want her to. This specific concert is in a smaller city. For these, he can usually reschedule until ticket sales are announced, which they haven't been yet. There is some bureaucracy involved, which is why I've never asked him to do so before, but it is doable. He's doing well financially. He's been on 4 vacations to a nearby town he likes this year alone. He paid for my education and is still paying my sister's. He's not Scrooge McDuck or anything, but rescheduling a concert won't affect him too much. Update 1. Hey guys. A lot has happened, but I'll try to keep this short. I'll start off by saying that your comments on my first post were very eye-opening. Though some of the assumptions you made were wrong, I could see where they all came from, and most of what you said was so spot on it was painful to read. Someone said that my father doesn't see me as a person, but as an extension of himself. That one hurt the most, because it's the best definition of my relationship with my father I've ever seen. My father wasn't neglectful in the traditional sense. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old, and my mom had primary custody of me and my sister, but we still went to his place several times a week. My mother is a teacher and couldn't raise us on her salary alone, so he was our main financial supporter even after the divorce. Because of all of this, he seems to believe he was the best father ever. Whenever we fought, he always insisted I was wrong and ungrateful. Those same arguments were used whenever I demonstrated I was upset over him missing out on my milestones. In his head, for instance, I couldn't get angry if he missed my high school graduation or if he didn't pay attention to any of the projects I developed in college, because he was the one paying for my education. I decided to stop complaining about this when I was younger, having realized I wouldn't be able to get him to see my side. This wedding incident felt like a turning point though. Especially since he wasn't paying for anything this time. It made me accept that he doesn't care how much he contributed anymore, but still believes I don't have the right to be upset. I now realize there's no winning this. If he doesn't come, I'll be devastated. If he does, I'll always remember I had to force my own father to come to my wedding. At this point, I'm not even sure which is worse. A few days ago, I had a discussion with my father over the phone, in which I expressed all of the above and more. And as expected, he called me dramatic, accused me of alienating myself, and berated me for talking to him the way I did. I hung up on him. This is how our fights have gone since I was a teenager, and it never solves anything. We haven't spoken since. I sent him a long text, basically saying I didn't want to hear from him until he was ready to both give me a sincere apology and own up to the status of our relationship is his fault. This is all wishful thinking. I really don't think either are gonna happen. I love my father, and I know he loves me to bits. But I can't do this anymore. He's been around my entire life, and still barely knows me for who I am. It's his turn to make that effort. Right now, I'm trying to muster up excitement for my wedding. I lost most of it these past weeks. My fiancé, my mom and my friends are all trying to cheer me up, and it's starting to work. I'm definitely feeling a lot better than last week. I'm really grateful to have them in my life. So that's it for now. Thank you all for your support on my previous post. Update 2. Hey guys. This will probably be my last update. First of all, I'm happy to announce that I finally got married to the love of my life almost 2 weeks ago. For the last 6 years, this man has been my rock, my best friend and my biggest supporter, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with him. I give him, my mom and my friends, especially my awesome MOH, full credit for helping me regain my excitement for my wedding. And it was amazing. Everyone had fun, the food was great, and no one got too drunk, a constant concern of mine. Some of my friends have that tendency. I went home knowing I'd spent my wedding day surrounded by people who loved me. But my father wasn't there. After thinking very carefully about the matter and talking about it with my paternal family, all of whom were taking my side, I realized I wasn't ready to go and see. Especially since I will have to see him at least once a year for the holidays. But I legitimately don't want to invest in our relationship anymore. So for now, I'm going extremely LC. I will act civil, though probably cold, whenever I'm around him, but that's it. I'm not answering his calls or texts, he's no longer welcome at my place, and I'm no longer inviting him to anything, including my birthdays, work events and my future children's milestones. I'm leaving the door open in case he ever wants to try to make an effort to be better, therapy, apologies, and actually caring about my accomplishments, but I'm more than ready to close it. I ended up talking to him one more time, again through the phone, a couple of weeks after my last update. I told him all of the above. And when he yelled at me, I asked him to name a single project I'd worked on in college. I had told him about 4, and explained one of them in detail several times, none of which he'd remember the next day. He couldn't. I asked him to at least loosely describe one of them. He couldn't either. I kept asking him about multiple details about my life that I clearly remembered telling him about, always at least twice. Nada. He claimed I'd never told him about any of this stuff. I said that not only had I informed him of these things frequently, we'd also had that exact conversation dozens of times before. And the outcome is always the same: he's a great father, and I'm ungrateful and dramatic. I told him I'll always love him and be grateful for the things he did for me, but I'm done. He only cares about me as his daughter, and not a grown woman that exists outside of his life. He never actually cared about anything that wasn't about him. I'm done with him thinking I'm not worth the same respect that I have bent over backwards to give him my whole life. We haven't spoken since. My cousin told me her mom, his older sister, berated him on the phone a few days later. My mom has offered to do the same, but I declined. He's been trying to talk to my sister about it, but I told her to stay out of it. Things have been getting a bit better between me and her. I considered having my stepfather walk me down the aisle, but he remembered me saying I never wanted my dad to give me away in the first place, so he encouraged me to do things my way. I ended up walking alone, to a string version of Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. About halfway through, my 3-year-old goddaughter came up to me and grabbed my hand, and we walked the rest of the way together. It was perfect. And so much better than anything I could have planned. My father texted me during the wedding, probably to ask for pictures. I didn't reply. For now, I feel numb. There is very little about the situation that didn't break my heart, and I'm not exactly happy about the outcome. Most of the time, I'm too sad to think about the silver linings, but too exhausted to actually feel sad. That being said, I'm also ecstatic. I never thought I'd be as happy about my wedding as I am. We also just got back from our honeymoon, so it's been easier to focus on the good times. Also, some people have PM'd me asking who my father is, or even speculating about it. Please don't. This is still my family. In spite of everything, he is still my father and I love him. I came here for advice, not revenge or sabotage. I wouldn't have created a throwaway if I didn't want to be kept anonymous. That's all, folks. Thank you for all your kind words and advice.
That's where the story ends. Please consider subscribing to keep up to date on this post and other daily Reddit content.